welcome to the up and down matches. You guys have probably been watching up until now, but if you haven't, we'll give you a refresh on your memory, or just an update, rather, of where we are now.
2-0, 2-0, and BBoongBBoong and Noblesse leading the rankings. Then we have Avenge and Crazy tied for second place currently, whereas Alive and Labyrinth are at the bottom of the ranking. And for both of them, this already means that they have to hope for a tiebreaker here, which also means that there are certain opponents that they can't lose to. For Alive, it is Crazy, and for Labyrinth, it is Avenge. Those are going to be the matches that we have kind of at the end of the broadcast, but these are already opponents where both of them, Alive and Labyrinth, that is, can't afford a loss or they will be out. There is not going to be a possibility for a tiebreaker anymore for them. But this is like in the future. Now we are focusing on the present, where we have Alive up against BBoongBBoong, and this game is going to be quite tough.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough game for sure. BBoongBBoong, though, I feel is slightly favored, considering how Alive has been playing in the recent past. You can just see it in his expression right now. He doesn't seem, I don't want to say he seems unmotivated, but he just seems really frustrated, almost, with his expression.
Yeah, I can certainly see what you're saying there. It's like, for him it must be quite tough starting with an 0-2 into the group, and it's not a good feeling, especially when you don't have a team and try to just market yourself a little bit and make a good impression. Heading into the game, let's find out if Alive can change things up, or if BBoongBBoong takes a 3-0 in the group here, the GSL up and down.
To the bottom left, most recently MJ until moving to Azubu. This player's ID is
BBoongBBoong.
Names himself after farting noises, in fact. It's kind of a weird ID.
And his opponent starting to the top right is currently, of course, the Terran player without a team. It is
Alive.
There's Alive, sitting in his booth. Like I said earlier, feeling a little bit frustrated. Taking an early 0-2 deficit in the group always makes you feel, as a player, like, alright, I can't make any mistakes now, or I'm going to face defeat. And especially as a teamless player like Alive, you want to make sure that you can come out of this group with at least a good showing, even if you don't get out of the group. You know, it's important to actually make a good showing so that potential sponsors and teams that are looking to pick you up
even
are going to value you.
Yeah, even playing on a constant level in Code A is quite the accomplishment and really good. But if you can at least play well in the up and downs, and then it's okay if you don't get into Code S. Alive is trying once again to sell this idea to his opponent. He might be going for a very aggressive build by building the barracks just a little bit off to the side. It also allows him to lift the barracks later in case there's an overlord on the high ground and take it down.
Yeah.
Get the high ground vision. It's actually something, building placement that we've seen in the past quite frequently.
Yeah, the build, people used to call this like the Maka racks, but now it's like the Alive racks, because he's the one who does it the most often.
And it serves also a little bit of a different purpose with the Overlord scouting positions that you usually have on this map. So let's see if Alive is trying to pull it off. Unfortunate for him, there is no Overlord in a position just yet.
Yep.
And BBoongBBoong is still scouting, finally finds the barracks.
Yep, chases that drone away, will start his command center on the low ground. Another cool thing about this build is you can send your SCV right from the barracks to make the command center when you do your one racks expand. It lines up really nicely.
Exactly, and that's what we're currently seeing. And this is now the problem that he has. The Overlord is trying to get onto the high ground, and Alive can, whenever he wants, just lift the barracks, get the high ground vision, and take down the Overlord, which is really annoying in the early game.
Yeah, he's just going to do it as soon as this next Marine is out, and there's nowhere BBoongBBoong can hide. He's just going to lose the Overlord.
Yeah. Problem is you can't produce units in the meantime, but still, this is definitely well worth it. And we should see it any second now.
Yep, he lifts it now, goes for the chase. He has a second Marine ready to kill.
There we go, high ground vision is there, 2 Marines, that's all that you need.
And BBoongBBoong tries to nice as much as possible so he can get those queens out. He does get the queens, starts another Overlord. Well done.
Yeah. Well, that might BBoongBBoong just delayed a little bit, but in the end, of course, the result is the same. The Overlord is gone. And Alive with definitely a nice starting move in this game.
Yeah, and now he's going into a fast third command center, interestingly enough. Not going to be taking gases right away. Now he takes them.
Yeah, takes the gases right after that, all with one barracks, playing it a little bit greedy here, but it's still kind of the opening that you are that you will usually see. Question more is like, what exactly is BBoongBBoong going to do? And currently, looking at the production tab, we have him with Queen number 3 and number 4. Could actually go just into a third base and go up to 6 queens, trying to defend against Hellions with the queens. Maybe a little bit of the wall at the front of his natural, and then going into 4 gases at a time later on. Get them out quite fast, and then of course start with his tech.
Yeah. Third base for Alive, or rather for BBoongBBoong, is being scouted by Alive. He wants to see if there's a third. He's going to see that there is in fact not. And this is going to make him a little bit more defensive back at home because he knows he's taking a big risk here. He has gone... Let me talk about all the risks he's taken. He's gone CC after 1 barracks, which he lost production on, as you mentioned, because he lifted.
Yep.
Then he flew that barracks all the way back and landed it and started a 3rd command center. Then he went into his gases, so he made a factory. And then he made a reactor at his barracks, so he lost even more production time.
Yeah.
He has only 4 Marines right now, so he is very vulnerable to any type of aggression that BBoongBBoong wanted to send to him.
Even even lifestyle with just a few speedlings on the map, or Zerglings in general, would already have put him in a situation where he faced a big problem.
He's even walking around the map with those Marines very confidently. And this is going to make, if BBoongBBoong runs into those Marines, make him feel that Alive is probably not having a 3rd command center, because otherwise he wouldn't do this.
No. And right now we have this 3rd base for BBoongBBoong being built. BBoongBBoong a little bit later with this. Also the double evolution chamber that is already set up in an angle that we have this attempt of a wall that I was talking about earlier. This is exactly what you want in case that your opponent goes for a massive amount of Hellions. You need to block the gap with the queens, and that is something you can only do if you have the evolution chamber set up accordingly.
Yeah. The Hellions, or rather the Hellions will come out now, but the Overlords have to hide on that pillar from Alive's Marines. Alive is really actively hunting those Overlords down, and this is something that gives Zerg players a big fright in the early game because they don't want to have to spend extra resources on Overlords when they're trying to power out drones, get hatcheries up, get these upgrades out.
It just messes up your timings. When you're supply blocked, for example, everything is just probably suddenly going to hell. So BBoongBBoong now with the +1/+1 attack upgrades. Usually you do this when you try to go into the Infestors, but these days it's a lot more popular to just go into a Mutaling Baneling. Also a strategy that works very well on a map like this. So I was thinking that he's probably going to go into a Spire Tech here, but he can do both. With the upgrades early on, he can also just rely on the Infestors and then try to buy himself time to go into the late game and secure spaces.
Yeah. What type of... everybody seems to, these days, be going for Mutaling Baneling. BBoongBBoong in the past has shown Infestors. The Infestors recently got nerfed. I wonder if we'll see a change. This is actually unrelated to this game. Well, hold that thought.
Well, we will see a change. It's called Heart of the Swarm.
Well, yes, that is the case as well. But in Wings of Liberty, I've always, wondered in this last little leg if we'd see a Zerg player change things up and go for Infestors to throw the Terran player off a little bit, maybe just shut down some of his pressure with some good fungals.
I personally always like the Mutalisks more. I'm a player who really likes to have very mobile and fast units, which is why I really love Heart of the Swarm and the Mutalisks with the increased acceleration. Then with the recent changes to the Infestors, so that especially the Infested Marines suddenly don't benefit from upgrades anymore, most players just decide to go into the Mutalisk build instead. And this is exactly what we see BBoongBBoong doing here. If you combine the Mutalisks with Zerglings and Banelings on the ground, you can really defend against mostly everything. You're really strong against drop play. And you have a map present that allows you to be the one who controls the flow of the game. And that's exactly always where you want to be.
Yeah. The thing is, as predictable as it is, it's still always good. You just have to know you're dealing with those mutas. You have to prepare for them just the same. And even if you prepare as well as you can, it's up to your opponent's control as to how much damage the mutas are going to do.
One of the big strengths of the Infestors was that it's such a catch-all unit. But now with the Infested Terrans, the Infested Marines not really benefiting from the upgrades anymore, in the late game it's not as good as it was before. It's a very subtle change, but it really affected most of the matchups.
Yeah. It has quite heavily. And in Heart of the Swarm, with the fungal change, it does not even see very much competitive use in the competitive games I've seen.
There are a lot of people who argue that in Heart of the Swarm the Infestor is a little bit too weak because the fungal change is too strong, it's too difficult to hit them. And of course you want to have something that is a little bit, or needs a little bit more skill to use. But a few pro players will argue that they think it's been taken one step too much, that it's not really worth to go Infestors anymore in most of the matchups as a core unit. Which is, on the other hand, also what you try to go. I mean, the Infestors in the end is like a support unit. That's the original idea.
Yeah. original idea is to have, you know, 4 to 6 or so, like High Templar, but not to have, you know, 15 Infestors in a given game.
There just seem to be better options than going Infestor now in most of the matchups. It depends always on the scenario, of course. We still see them. It's not like they are suddenly extinct.
Right. These Mutas, by the way, are keeping the Hellions at bay. That's part of that control you talked about earlier. But since he's worried about the Hellions, he does not defend his queen to the left side. Alive now knows this base is here, and he's starting to push out. This is a very tiny ragtag force. It's got just a few Marines and only 2 siege tanks. It's only going to be used to clear up creep.
Yeah.
But he's going to be careful about walking on a creep with a small army like that.
As long as he takes down more and more of those tumors, he's going to be completely fine here. This is in the end exactly what he tries to do, as you just said. If you force back the creep, then you make sure that the Zerg doesn't have too much map control. Those kind of small pokes at the natural are also going to, sorry, not the natural, the fourth, are also going to be very, very annoying. BBoongBBoong is just trying to set up a game where, nice, picks off the Medivac after all, really well done. But yeah, he's trying to set up a scenario where he has a strong economy, where it's difficult for Life to engage at all, and where his economy is completely safe. If he's able to do that, then he can transition very well into a late game and put more and more pressure onto Life and even maybe deny a fourth.
Yeah. Keller, I'm looking at this game, and I feel like Alive is going to get further and further behind because he does not have map control, and he doesn't... Like, he tried to kill the 4th base. He killed the queen only. But now his army is not big enough to control the map. The Mutas are still a threat. He doesn't have a 4th base set up yet. There's a 5th base going down for BBoongBBoong. BBoongBBoong just seems one step ahead.
The thing that Alive really has, which works really well for him, is his upgrades.
Yes.
Going into +3/+3 is really good against Zerg at this point. If you have upgrades this early and you also have the Medivacs to support them, Marines can do a lot. You need to have good split and micro, but if you pull that off, then this army is going to be so strong. And
that's why these Infestors are starting to come into play. We talked about them a little bit earlier. The Fungals are going to really help out. A few drones being taken out here, the Spines as well. Alive's units here, these tanks are getting a little ahead of themselves. He doesn't want to have tanks only up there. He needs to have the rest of his army with it. Now he can siege up.
Alive is trying to put himself into a good spot, but the big problem for him really is that it's difficult to engage the Zerg player. And BBoongBBoong is now going into Greater Spire and also adding the 3rd set of upgrades. He's even going in, and there is no siege up for the tanks, but he detonates all of the banelings at the tanks.
But
the Marines
still, you know, there's a lot of lanes.
Yeah, yes, there's still a lot of banelings left. He can just surround the Marines.
Oh, this is not good. Alive, well, he's got this good high ground position. That's one thing he has going for him. BBoongBBoong messing that up a little bit, but the 3rd base is a little exposed. BBoongBBoong's micro here at the last part of that fight was not very good.
But think about what he achieved. He traded armies and he put Alive now in a spot where Alive is still safe on his 3 bases, but is this really where Alive wants to be? No. He wants to get
take, yeah, he wants to take the 4th. He wants to have the next step.
Exactly. He wants to take a 4th base, and this is something that BBoongBBoong over and over again is able to just deny him.
The command center lands now at the 4th, but how long can it stay there? BBoongBBoong has this scary army. He's got 16 more Banelings. He's got Broods on the way, 5 more Corruptors. And he even has Infestor support. The Infestor energy getting a little bit high as well.
The starports for Alive are important here, but he loses another Medivac. Alive really tries to make this drop play work, but against someone like BBoongBBoong, who is kind of everywhere on the map and has a good map presence, it's difficult.
Yep, Ling is coming back here. He spots it with the Overlord. Even the Mutas come back. This gives Alive a little bit more time to hold his 4th base and even move into this choke point. But the Broodlords are waiting on the other side. He scans, he sees this, and he's like, I gotta get out of here. Oh! The Fungals! He gets him. He loses an Infestor, but he will kill several Marines.
Yeah, the Marines are now down. 3-3 is done for Alive, soon to be done for BBoongBBoong. Then they will be on even upgrades again. Here come the Broodlords, more and more of them. Alive needs more Vikings, and he's trying to get them into the game. But this is going to get very dangerous. The 4th base, this is where it all going to happen. Alive needs to hold it.
Yeah. If he doesn't hold this base, then he's never going to be able to deal with the Broodlords. He needs the space to get the Vikings out. That's where his money's coming from right now. Even the Mutas are still alive. They're not going to be alive for much longer because he's going to want to trade those. But he has 13, and they're going to help zone against the low number of Vikings that Alive has out right now.
Yeah, and Ultra's Coven is being added. BBoongBBoong wants to have the option to transition. If he forces out Mutalisks, Vikings and Marines, then he can transition as long as there are not too many Marauders. And this is actually like smart. I don't like Ultralisk as a first choice, but as a transition it's great.
It is. The tanks are a little bit late on the siege here. The Planetary, though, still holds, and the Mutas Not very useful as army units.
But they take down the siege tanks, and they also buffer for the rest of the army.
Great combo there.
Bundles.
Oh, wow. Alive needs to pull back. He's going to lose his base here. He can't lift it. It's a planetary.
The queens are still there for the transfuse, and the planetary is going to be repaired. This is a lot of minerals and time that he loses. The spine crawler in the main base and also at the fourth base at least deal to a certain extent with the drop. He still needs to send some units over, BoongBoong that is, but the third base, the fourth of Alive, of course, doesn't stand a chance against this much pressure.
Oh, BoongBoong still dealing with the pressure in the main. He will chase the drop away finally, but the top left base, now he deals with it, brings the Zerglings in. A lot of workers lost for BoongBoong. In fact, he's down in Harvester Supply, 64 to 65. Alive with a slight lead there, making 4 Vikings at a time. But Alive cannot afford to keep making these Vikings forever without a fourth base.
Yeah. Without a fourth base, it's going to be very difficult, and he needs to set up another one. All his drops have been shut down so far, and he still doesn't have anything to deal with his army. It's not like he suddenly magically got a present of 12 Vikings or anything like that. He's building 5 at a time, but he's still on a clock here.
Yeah. And he needs to defend this base more than his fourth. This is now his only mining base, essentially. His natural has like 5 SVs mining on it.
The Medivac with 1 injured Marine, even if that's Chuck Norris, Sylvester Stallone, or Rambo, it's probably not going to work for him. The big fight is happening to the right side of the map, though. There are the Banelings. He nearly killed those Marines with the Banelings, but he still has all those
Medivacs are all
Corruptors.
gone.
Not only the Medivacs, the Vikings are also gone.
Yeah. And this is an attempt here to take out the last of the Broods. It's not going to succeed. The Queens are too much transfused. He could corrupt those Marines, and he does, in fact.
He corrupts the Marines. Another Viking tries to take down the Broodlords, but the Corruptors are there to save the day. GG. Alive with another loss. BoongBoong with his 3rd victory in this group.
BoongBoong and Noblesse are leading the charge. They are trying to get out of this group really, really hard. Great play-by for them, and they are looking dominant in this group. No one is looking like they're quite on those 2 players' level. Crazy is the big contender, I feel, right now, but still.
Now it gets, for Alive, really tough. As funny as it is, he's not out yet. He is actually still in a position where he could go to Kodes.
Yeah, with the 3-way tie.
Exactly, but he has to rely on like about 6-7 different games going a certain way. Then he still has a chance. So this is going to get very... Well, at this point, there's basically no chance anymore. His chances are like maybe 5% below 10. I don't even know, actually. But it's like so slim, it's really a little bit weird. But all of this will also start to clear up a little bit more in the next few minutes, because now we have the next game, Avenge versus Crazy. That's already going to determine quite a bit. We have Avenge and Crazy both on a 1-1 score in the group. 1 win, 1 loss. One of them will go a bit farther ahead and then get a better position, trying to claim one of the Kodes spots and maybe get the 3rd place if Kodes isn't available anymore, because suddenly BoongBoong destroys just everyone and Noblesse is doing the same. But it's going to be an interesting match regardless.
Yeah.
Crazy especially is looking really strong, and Avenge played also quite well in the game that we saw him play against Alive.
Crazy has the better chance than Avenge of getting out of this, I feel, but we'll see. Both of them 1-1 here, and one of them is going to take a lead after this game. The map is Daybreak. This is the 2nd Protoss versus Zerg that Avenge will have played today. Crazy is playing his first and only Zerg versus Protoss.
Yep. And just to give you a bit of an idea of how desperate the situation of Alive is, we have about, I think, 9 games left that have to be played in case we don't have a tie. But at this point already, if Alive wants to advance to Kodes, he needs Crazy to win now. If Avenge takes this game, Alive is already in a position where he can't claim one of the top 2 spots anymore.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your stats. It looks like there's 8 different requirements Alive needs to meet to actually get out. Yeah. That's crazy.
And that's Avenge. Jumping into the game between the 2 of them at the GSL up and downs. We have the Protoss player to the top right. He starts for Team Star.